Senator Tom Cotton, a Republican who is considering a presidential run in 2024, has decided to break from the Republican Party in regard to challenging the electoral votes on January 6th. Now, this is an effort that was spearheaded by Republican representatives like Louis Gohmert in the House, of course. And then in the Senate, Josh Hawley raised his hand and said, yeah, I'll definitely challenge the election results in the Senate. Now, Cotton has responded to that. According to The Hill, Cotton warned that an effort spearheaded by Senators Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz in the Senate, two other 2024 White House hopefuls, to challenge the electoral votes of several swing states that went for the president-elect Joe Biden could establish unwise precedents. So pay close attention to his framing here, because what he does is try to appeal to Republican loyalists in a way that frames this as a problem that could lead to more power for Democrats. He says the founders entrusted our elections chiefly to the states, not Congress. They entrusted the election of our president to the people, acting through the Electoral College, not Congress. And they entrusted the adjudication of election disputes to the courts, not Congress. Under the Constitution and federal law, Congress's power is limited to counting electoral votes submitted by the state. Now, to be clear, the event that takes place on January 6th is mostly a ceremonial event. However, because these Republican lawmakers are planning on challenging the electoral votes, what will happen is both chambers of Congress will have to vote on whether or not they agree with challenging these electoral votes. Obviously, there might be some possibility that this goes through in the Senate, but the House of Representatives is not buying it. No one should buy it. Let's be clear on that. There is no evidence of widespread voter fraud. But what Cotton is saying here is, if we go through with this stunt, what this could do is jeopardize the future of the Electoral College, which I personally would love to get rid of. But he's saying that no, we can't do that, because if we get rid of the Electoral College, there'll be too much power in the hands of the federal government, as opposed to the states, which get to decide how to run their elections. Cotton said it would imperil the Electoral College and the voice it gives to smaller states like Arkansas, and help Democrats, quote, achieve their longstanding goal of eliminating the Electoral College. He said if Congress overrides the Electoral College's vote, it would, quote, take another big step toward federalizing election law. And by the way, Donald Trump wasn't very happy with him after he took this break from the Republican Party and the stunts that they're trying to pull on behalf of Donald Trump. On Twitter, he wrote, Senator Tom Cotton, Republicans have Republicans have pluses and minuses, but one thing is sure, they never forget, which comes across as a threat, although I don't know really what the threat is. Like, we're not gonna support you in 2024. Okay, well, you dismantle democracy, it doesn't even matter. And that's what Trump is trying to do. So Aida, jump in.
It means they're gonna vote negative. I'm never letting that go. But you know what I think is funny? I just think Cotton has started campaigning. He's already directly opposing some of the policies of the people who are gonna be trying to run as well. Weirdo Cruz. And he's already, I mean, he wears awful ties. I'm sorry, I had to say something. That Bert and Ernie tie that he had on just drove me crazy and out of my mind. But I think that what's going on here is that he is just, everybody in the Republican Party now is zooming in on their little cluster of Republicans that channel their way of thinking. And so he's like, I'm part of this group of the people who believe this. That's what they're all doing. And then they're those that are falling off, that I don't know if Trump has pictures in a vault or videos or whatever he has on some people like Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz, who were direct opposition. But I just think that they're all playing politics. They're all running their own game, and Tom Cotton is not exempt from that. He is establishing himself, and the trigger words, what the Democrats have been trying to do for a long time and get rid of the Electoral College. Which Republicans are you which Democrats are you talking about, Tom? Because I just think that it's really interesting, the choice of words, because they are all insulting constantly. They're constantly insulting the Republican base. They are constantly thinking that they can drive these people through fear. They can drive these people through ignorance, through words, and they do it all the time. That's what they're doing.
Because they can. It's worked. I mean, again, the Republican electorate loves Donald Trump. I mean, even polling today, after hundreds of thousands of Americans have died during this pandemic, after he's shown absolutely no interest in doing the right thing to protect Americans from this deadly virus, the majority of Republican voters still think Trump did a fantastic job. They support him. They believe the lies. And I'm not saying that simply to, insult them as dumb or anything like that, but I just think that they are, they live in a right-wing media ecosystem that we are unable to penetrate. So they hang on his every word. And when people are in a bad place, as many Americans are right now, it's easy to emotionally manipulate them. And we see that quite a bit on the right. We see that quite a bit with Donald Trump, where he will use the rhetoric of a populist. And then, of course, when you take a look at his actual dealings, and I wish Americans did this overall, just stop paying attention to the rhetoric and look at the actions that are being taken by both parties, right? What are they voting in favor of? What kinds of conflicts of interest exist, right? Who's funding some of these efforts? Look at those actions. Look at the self-dealing that Donald Trump engaged in during his 4 years in office, where he, there was a story that got no attention. It drove me crazy. $8 million in taxpayer money has been funneled to his private businesses during the last 4 years. So he'll hold all sorts of government events at his properties, and all of that money, of course, gets funneled into his properties. That's taxpayer money that gets into his private businesses and obviously enriches Donald Trump and his family. These are real issues while most Americans right now are struggling to pay their rent, put food on the table, and just get through each month without the real economic relief that they desperately need. So many people are dying from this pandemic. Doesn't matter. He can just lie to them. And again, the majority of Republican voters think he's doing a fantastic job. I don't know how to break through to them. I don't.
I just think shame on all these politicians, though, because I think that listening to Cotton just now when he said that setting these precedents can affect smaller the representation in places like Arkansas, but you don't hear him talking about how the people of Arkansas are in dire need in areas that really, really are important. And if you want to be the president of the United States, the education system, the drug problem that they have in the state, the poverty, it's really interesting to me what's important for Arkansas, which is in direct benefit to him, as opposed to what's important to Arkansas for the people. And that's the thing that I have a problem with these politicians, that they're not talking about the people. They are just talking about territory and how they're gonna control it.
Yeah, that's such a great point, Aida, because what he's doing in his argument is essentially talking about, electoral rules that benefit the Republican lawmakers and the Republican Party. The conversation isn't really about doing the right thing to ensure that the government ends up protecting and representing the best interests of their constituents. The conversation's never really about that. And all you need to do is pay attention to the framing and the conversation to notice. And then I'm gonna leave you with one final quote from former Republican House Speaker Paul Ryan, who's been very quiet after he left the House of Representatives in 2018. But he did release a statement saying that the Trump campaign had ample opportunity to challenge election results, and those efforts failed from lack of evidence. If states wish to reform their process for future elections, that is their prerogative, but Joe Biden's victory is entirely legitimate. Something tells me that Paul Ryan would like to come back to politics, but doesn't feel comfortable doing it while Trump is still in charge. So to me, it's no surprise that he finally said something. And I think, unfortunately, we're gonna see more of Paul Ryan moving forward.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.